everyone. Thank you for being a member of my YouTube channel, Angela Simpson for Functional Medicine. I'm really happy to have you here. And I want to bring a topic to you today that I find is so common for females, especially beyond the ages of 40, as they're entering towards perimenopause and that transition into menopause. And that is the thyroid gland. So many women have dysfunction in their thyroid and they actually don't even know that this is going on. But it can be actually some of the main symptoms that you might be experiencing could be coming from this area of your body. So I wanted to talk to you today about some of the three most common but often overlooked causes for thyroid imbalances in females, especially in this age group. And I also have thyroid imbalance, so I do understand from a personal perspective a lot of the symptoms that do go along with it, and also some of the solutions that you can start to tackle to heal not only your thyroid, but the rest of your body for the long term as a female, especially if you're suffering from hormone imbalance symptoms. And so, one of the causes that I have found is so common with females once we start doing the proper lab testing is imbalances in gut health, and more specifically, imbalances in the gut microbiome. And often this does mean that there is unfavorable bacteria that is dominating over the favorable bacteria in the gut. And this can cause a host of different problems in the body, but it definitely can contribute to thyroid imbalance. And so I often see for females that have hypothyroidism, which is a thyroid gland that is underfunctioning, is often there is Candida overgrowth. So you may or may not have symptoms of this outwardly. You don't have to have, for example, as a female, a vaginal yeast infection to actually have chronic Candida or yeast overgrowth in the body, and especially in the gut. And this is common to happen for anyone, but especially females that have a history of potential antibiotic use. It could even go all the way back to when you were a child. You might have had chronic ear infections, chronic sinus infections, tonsil infections. I find this is very common when I start talking to females about their health history, that there was some period of time in their life where they had some antibiotic use. It might have been more as you were an adult. Maybe you do or have suffered from vaginal yeast infections in the past, or maybe you've had chronic urinary tract infections. So, there's all these things that could potentially have contributed to a gut microbiome imbalance that you are actually expressing now, possibly through symptoms with your thyroid gland. And some of the common symptoms of chronic candida or yeast overgrowth in the gut very much parallel thyroid symptoms. Chronic fatigue, very common, brain fog, lack of focus, memory, concentration. Does this sound familiar to you? I know it sure does to me with the thyroid dysfunction that I have experienced and so many of the women that I work with. And quite commonly, they tell me that they have gone and gotten a diagnosis of hypothyroidism, which is low or under functioning thyroid. And they often have also gotten medication for this to help. And many women do report that with the medication, a lot of these symptoms do improve. But for many women, they don't actually completely go away. And for some women, the medication doesn't even help, especially as much as they were hoping to. And they're still left with these symptoms despite being on the medication. And so, what I find often is that once we actually learn and start to understand that there is some sort of imbalance in the gut microbiome and a bacterial overgrowth that you may or may not know about, once it's actually treated and the gut starts to rebalance, a lot of these symptoms in the thyroid start to go away. And you can even start to get better healing to the thyroid gland for the long term, regardless of if you have to stay on medication or not. So it's absolutely essential that we understand that this could be happening with you, especially dependent on your history and also dependent on your current symptoms. Another thing that I find is very commonly overlooked is a heavy metals buildup in the body. So this is actually very common for women that have a specific part of the thyroid hormone levels being low. So we can always test this on blood labs to understand what's happening specifically with the numbers with your thyroid gland. But beyond that, we also need to do some lab testing to understand if there is the potential for heavy metals buildup. And I'm able to do this with women to get an understanding if this is related to the root cause of your thyroid imbalance issues and symptoms. Some of the common symptoms I find that parallel this buildup of heavy metals along with thyroid imbalance symptoms has to do with hair loss, hair thinning. It's very common to have a heavy metals buildup that is interfering with the absorption of some key minerals and key nutrients that actually help with hair growth. And it also can impede thyroid function and cause these symptoms. Now, heavy metals can come into our body from several different sources. We're all going to have some, but some of them will have higher levels. And Some of the most common sources have to do with our water. So, our drinking water, the water we bathe in, the water we shower in. And it could be not necessarily just something now, but even all the way through your lifetime. It could be, all the way back to when you were a child, you might have had some history of having some metals exposure. Heavy metals, they're heavy. So what do? They deposit into fatty tissues in the body. So it's actually really hard for our body to detoxify and get rid of these metals if they do end up being deposited into the fatty tissues over time. They just actually get worse and worse, sometimes for women more so than others if they have genetics around inefficient detoxification. So not only for things like heavy metals, but other toxins in our body. So I do find it's also essential that we do lab testing to not only look at your thyroid hormones, but also to look for the potential for heavy metals buildup. And also maybe checking your genetic health history to see, do you have a susceptibility to not detoxifying efficiently in your body? I find this is very, very common for women that suffer with thyroid imbalances, whether it's just been diagnosed or understood more recently, or if it's something that's been going on for many, many years. So, just again, important to understand your health history, and make sure that we don't overlook something like this to help you not only treat and heal your thyroid gland and some of the symptoms that go along with it, but also to allow your entire body and the systems that help your body heal the thyroid gland, like your liver and your gut health, heal for the long term. And heavy metals will disrupt this. So it's really important to understand if this could be you in your scenario. And then another common but often overlooked cause of thyroid imbalance has to do with viral infections. Viral infections, some of the common ones that I find many females have had in their lifetime when they do have something going on with their thyroid gland, whether it's diagnosed yet or not. Often women will have a history of having mono or the EBV virus. Women often have had a history of herpes, the HPV virus. Depending on the era of when you grew up in, you might have had chicken pox. Most women that are actually in their 40s and 50s now, there wasn't a vaccine for that then. So most women probably would have had a history of having chicken pox at some point in their life. Shingles is another viral infection that some people are exposed to. So this just gives you a list of some of the most common ones. There's definitely some flus that are viral as well. I mean, look at what's circulating now in our world, which is also viral. So you have the potential that you might have a high viral load in your body. And if so, what this does is it impedes your immune system function. And your immune system is strongly tied into how well your thyroid gland is functioning or not. The immune system is contained in the gut primarily. And so, if our immune system's not functioning properly, most likely our gut isn't either. And it can, again, affect the digestion and absorption of our key nutrients that allow the thyroid to function. So, these are some very common, but I find often overlooked areas when we're talking about thyroid dysfunction, how to understand if this could be happening for you. What is your health history around any potential for these root cause issues to have contributed to your current thyroid dysfunction? And how can we start to understand if this is you and start to understand how to get to the root cause of it to start healing not only your thyroid gland, but the systems of your body that support your thyroid and as well also prevent certain diseases, especially when we're thinking of the gut and our immune health. So, for you with your thyroid, if you feel like you are just struggling with chronic fatigue and low energy, no matter how much sleep you get, no matter how much you do to try and support this, if you have mood issues, you might have more chronically low mood, more depressed, low motivation. I know this is very, very common when the thyroid is not functioning optimally. Sometimes women will also, in combination with this, have anxiety as well, which is very common when the thyroid's out of function. Another thing that can happen is low libido. And a lot of women just attribute this to their sex hormones lowering and changing as you're entering your 40s, 50s, and beyond. So the thyroid actually can contribute to this as well as weight issues. Do you feel like it's harder to do up your pants? Do you feel like you're having to change sizes? You're having weight gain that seems unexplained. Again, very, very common with thyroid issues. And that really common symptom of brain fog, just not feeling present, dropping words, not having good memory, not able to focus on things for too long. So, so common with thyroid dysfunction. I know some women that tell me they feel like they have been recently diagnosed with attention deficit or things like that in their 40s and 50s. And of course, this can be the case, but sometimes it's important too to even look at things like the thyroid gland to see, could this be contributing to some of those symptoms? And where is the root cause of that thyroid imbalance coming from in the first place? And then, of course, the hair. So I've had this happen as well. I had a point in my life where my hair was just falling out like crazy. It was really stressful seeing my hair thin and thin and thin. I didn't have to get a haircut anymore. My hair was just falling out and shortening and thinning. I know it's very stressful to have that happen. And for me, it was really equated to my thyroid being out of balance. And I had to address the root cause of this. So, I know that if this is you and you're dealing with these symptoms, that it is distressing. And I know you want to get to the bottom of it and really figure out how to heal your thyroid gland as well as your body for the long term. When we think of these potential root causes of why the thyroid could be in dysfunction, if we don't address these root causes, we could be at risk for other conditions or diseases developing. High toxin load, what can that also contribute to? Things like development of cancer, impaired memory. If it's getting worse and worse and we're not addressing the root cause, it can put us at risk for things like neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, dementia, those kinds of things. So, of course, we want to be preventing as well and not just dealing with symptoms right now. We want to really heal the body for the long term. So, if you're interested in learning more about this and how I, as a functional medicine practitioner, could help you with this, help you discover the root cause and develop an individualized plan to heal your body for the long term, please feel free to reach out to me. You can connect with me for a free complimentary consult. And you can go to my website to figure out how to do this. There's a place on the website, book now, and you can book that complimentary call. And I'm happy to speak with you and start to understand if it could be a good fit for us to work together to help you optimize not only your thyroid health, but all of your hormonal imbalances you're dealing with, as well as return you to optimal wellness. So you can reach me at www.angelasimpsonfunctionalmedicine.ca. Thank you so much for being a member here of my YouTube channel, and I look forward to sharing more videos with you in the future.